So, in a sense, enhancing the well being of our neighbors or others shifts our perspective, and it can make a person feel as if they're making a true difference in people's lives, that they're part of the greater good, so to speak. I think that this is a really crucial pillar. I would say that about all of them, but especially this one, because as humans, we were always meant to live in communities with one another and meant to coexist and mutually aid each other. And the way that we live, at least in the United States, is almost the antithesis of that. We live oftentimes in isolation and maybe just see your family or a couple people each day, your coworkers. But that's really not the way that we were meant to live in community. And I think that part of community is contributing to community. Um, Communities aren't built by the few, but by each other and aiding one another.
So, if I'm hearing you right, what you're saying is that we don't attain our highest well being by being self serving, egotistical jerks.
Correct.
Okay. So, yeah, which obviously, when you say it like that,
hmm
it's okay. Well, yeah, of course. But I think there's a lot of elements in a materialistic worldview, a consumer oriented worldview that really, without being explicit like I was, that's really the modus operandi of the culture many times. It's very much an ethos of self-serving, finding my purpose, my desires, doing what I want, getting my way,
hmm
living according to my best life, however you want to describe it. But so often that mentality that's pervasive, I would say, in our culture is really oriented toward the self rather than others.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said about prioritizing yourself, but more so, I think that being part of a community, people kind of view it as, well, I can completely separate and isolate myself and then jump back in when I want to, but that's not really the case.
Because that's
Uh,
really still self-serving, isn't it?
yeah, so being part of community isn't necessarily about, like you said, convenience. It's about pushing through with your commitments and the things that you say you will, and being there for your neighbor.
So it's interesting because what you're describing is a path of self-sacrifice that actually leads to a greater fulfillment of self,
Yeah, and
which
this
is paradoxical, really.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I kind of want to lead with the science behind this. So when I was doing my research for this, I found that volunteerism is associated with mood boosting chemicals, which I think is why it's such an important part of the prescription, as we call it. It's associated with the release of oxytocin, which, if you're not familiar with that, that's kind of a happy hormone. It's associated with social bonding and connections. And in old age, it can improve your cognitive functioning and reduce the decline of your cognitive functioning. It's associated with lower blood pressure, lower chronic pain, and it's a very powerful resource in combating depression for anyone of any age.
So really, the science is backing up what people of various religious faiths have known intuitively for thousands of years. Of course, this idea of service, really, you can find it in many different religious expressions. Any of the major religions, I would say, would have this element. In Christianity in particular, I mean, it's foundational.
Yeah.
It's a core value of Christianity, and we'll get to that later in our discussion. But it's just so interesting to me that what seems counterintuitive is corroborated by so many different voices, so many different cultures. This idea that we actually reach our highest potential, our greatest well being, not by pursuing our own happiness directly, but actually seeking the well being of other people as a priority.
I mean, I've definitely seen this in my own life. There's often times where I'm tired and don't necessarily want to do something, or I'm feeling selfish, as we've all felt, of course. But then doing something for others really makes me feel fulfilled. And I think about giving gifts, for example. I really enjoy giving gifts and thinking about the person who's receiving that gift, even more than I like receiving gifts myself. And I think that can tie into other aspects of life as well.
Hey, I wanted to invite you to a course that I've developed for you. I think you'll find it very interesting. It's called The History of Evangelism, and we're going to be looking at the story of evangelism right from the beginning of the Christian era all the way up to modern times. We're going to be talking about the apologists. We're going to be talking about some lesser known figures like St. Gregory Thaumaturgus or Nina of Georgia. We're going to be talking about better known figures like the Wesleys, Billy Graham. We've got Orthodox figures, Roman Catholic, Protestant. So whatever your background, I think you're going to find it very interesting. There's going to be class discussions. It's going to be offered through Zoom, but I think that we'll connect very well. And so I wanted to encourage you, get on our website, check out the course. It's just $100, and the registration is open until April 20th. So get in there. Course is going to be offered from May 9th through June 27th. We'll do live classes on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Central Time, but I think it'll be a good schedule for people from around the world to get in on this class, The History of Evangelism. I hope to see you there.